How many of you have ever done a trust fall? Anybody ever done a trust fall? So, okay, I want to tell you about the first trust fall I ever did. Now, if you've never done a trust fall before, if you're not familiar with the trust fall, that's when you you can do them like individually, like somebody catch you, you kind of put your hands over your chest and just fall back into their arms, and they are supposed to catch you. I would be careful who you ask to do a trust fall with, just in case, just saying. So when it comes to doing a trust fall, I did my first one out at Camp LRCA, which is now Connect Christian Camp. And I was in wilderness camp, probably somewhere, maybe 6th through 10th grade, somewhere in there. I did my first trust fall. And the way they did it is they had these little posts in the ground that got progressively taller. And what you would do is you would move from one post to the next, to the next, to the next, and then put your hands over your chest, fall backwards into the waiting arms of about 8 people who had their arms interlocked. So here I am. Little Sean gets up on the first post. Oh, by the way, they blindfolded me. So I am blindfolded, and I am getting up on the first post. I got people holding my hands, and they lead me to the first post, which may be 8 to 10 inches off the ground. So we're cool. So I get up on the first post. All right, Sean, now take your leg, take your right leg, and put it out over here. I'm blindfolded. And I have to take my leg and put it out onto the next post, which is about 20 inches off the ground, maybe 2 feet off the ground. I put my and I stand on that one. Okay, Sean, now take your left leg and stretch it out over here. Okay, we're going to guide you and get up on the next post, which is about 3 feet off the ground. And then one more. Okay, so we go to the next post, and this one is 40 feet off the ground. I kid you not, at least 40 feet off the ground. And so here I am. I'm on top of this post now. I'm 80 feet off the ground, and I'm standing there, and they're like, okay, now pivot. I'm blindfolded, 130 feet off the ground, and they say pivot. And so I'm doing this, trying not to die, because I'm 250 feet off the ground. Okay, I'm blindfolded. I'm 1,000 feet up, at least. They say, go ahead and fold your hands over. Okay, on the count of 3, fall. Say, what? So I'm 800 feet up, and they want me to just fall backwards into their arms. And I'm only hoping that they have swapped out my fellow campers with pro wrestlers and weightlifters, because I'm going to fall from 20,000 feet up, and I'm going to hit hard. I mean, I'm going to hit hard. I haven't always been, svelte and skinny like I used to be. So I'm on top of the post. 1, 2, 3, boom, and I just fell right back into the waiting arms of the people who were waiting to catch me. And so I learned a lot that day. 1, never go back to camp, and 2, trust is hard. Trust, it's not easy. Trust can be difficult. And I feel like, if you've ever done a trust fall, you know what I'm talking about when it comes to trying to trust somebody with your life. And in some ways, 2018 has been a bit of a trust fall here at GFCC. And by that, I mean that we have done some things in 2018 that have required a lot of faith and have required us to step out in faith and trust and know that God is going to catch us if we fall. And we're going to sing a song a little bit later on about how God has never failed us. And He's not fixing to start now as we move into 2019. I'm so excited for the future. But before we talk about the future, I want to talk a little bit about the past. And I want to talk about 2018. So if this is your first time here today, this is not what we typically do in a sermon, but this is going to apply to you as well. And so I just want to talk a little bit about the past. I want to talk a little bit about where we're coming from, and then I want to look forward to the future and what God has planned for us. So the verse that came to mind when I was thinking about this message, when I was thinking about what I wanted to say today, was Ephesians chapter 3, verses 20 and 21, and this is what it says. Now to Him who is able to do immeasurably more than all we ask or imagine, according to His power that is at work within us, to Him be glory in the church and in Christ Jesus throughout all generations, forever and ever. And all the church said, Amen. So Paul was writing a letter to the churches in Ephesus. And he writes this letter to them, and he tells them that God is able to do immeasurably more than all we can ask or imagine. Immeasurably more. And I look back at 2018 as a year of immeasurably more, that God did incredible things at GFCC in 2018. And we give him all the glory. We give him all the credit. And he has worked in your life and in my life. He has worked in our lives. He has worked in our church. And God is doing incredible things at GFCC. And he did incredible things in 2018. I want to recap just a few of those for you right now. And so one of the things that we did in 2018 is we launched our connection groups. A connection group, if you're not familiar with it, a connection group is a group of people, small group of people that get together and they study the Bible together, they do life together, they fellowship with one another, they serve together. How many of you are in a connection group right now? Quite a few of you are in a connection group. And the things I've heard from people about how much they love their connection group and what a difference it makes in their life. If you're not in a group yet, we really want to encourage you to get into a connection group. And you will have opportunities to do that in 2019. Connection groups are great for changing lives. We believe that there's a couple things you need to do if you want to be a growing Christian. If you want to grow in faith, there's a couple things you got to do. One of the things you got to do is you got to come to worship. And we encourage everyone, come to church, come to worship. You're going to grow in your relationship with God through a weekly message. But not only that, but you're going to encourage one another. You're going to encourage other people. You're going to be encouraged by other people. Worship attendance is so incredibly important. And so we really encourage you to come to church on a regular basis. Try and be here every week. We have a great time. We have an amazing band. We have incredible children's programming. And the sermons aren't half bad either. And so we have a great time here on weekends, either Saturday night at 5:30, Sunday morning 9:30 or 11. It's a great church family and a great worship service. We really encourage you to come to church. So one of the things you got to do is you got to come to church. The other thing you got to do is you got to get in a group. And you will grow in your faith more in a group than you will in sitting in a row for a 27-minute sermon every week. You will grow in your faith if you are in a group. I promise you will grow in your faith if you're in a group. So make sure you take time in 2019 to join a group. Our associate pastor Brandon has done an incredible job of facilitating and organizing our connection groups. Excuse me. In 2018, we launched them for the first time in a long time. We started them in January, had about 110 people sign up for groups. When we launched them in the fall, when we relaunched them in the fall, we had over 175 people join a connection group. And many of those for the first time. So it's really great. It's a great ministry. It's growing, and it's very, very exciting. Another thing that we launched in 2018 was our Saturday night service. We started a Saturday night service, and we were kind of white-knuckling at the time. We're like, we have no idea how this is going to go. But we knew that we needed to provide an option for people who have to work on Sundays to be able to come and worship God with us as a church family. And so we launched our Saturday night service on St. Patrick's Day weekend in 2018, and it was incredible. The response has been great. We've been averaging 100 to 125 people every Saturday night, so it's been really well received, and our church has grown because of it. And in fact, our attendance has grown over the last year. About a year ago, we were averaging about 300 on a Sunday morning, and now we're averaging 399 on a weekend. We had 2 services on Sunday morning. Now we added the third Saturday night service, and we're averaging almost 400 people. In fact, if we have 427 people in attendance this weekend, we will average 400 for the year for 2018, which is really, really exciting. And then you may be thinking, numbers, who cares? I care, and I believe that God cares about numbers because of what those numbers represent. Every person who comes to church here is a life that is being changed and transformed. It is a soul whose destiny is being transformed through the power of Jesus Christ. And so one of the things we've seen is just an incredible growth in our attendance, our weekend attendance here. It's been very exciting to see here at GFCC. Another thing we've seen also is a growth in generosity. Our budget for 2019 is an all-time high, the biggest budget we've ever had here in 98 years of being a church. So it's very exciting to see, and your generosity has been incredible, the way that you've given so faithfully this year. God has been doing amazing things through your generosity this year at GFCC. one of the great things that we've seen is more and more people coming to church, more and more people getting baptized. We'll talk about that in just a second. But because of your generosity, we've been able to do some really great projects, including remodeling our lobby. Now, it's going to be hard to believe, but we did that like 3 months ago. It was just 3.5 months ago that we remodeled the lobby. Doesn't it feel like it was forever ago that we remodeled it? And it looks so great. And here's the thing, we did it debt-free. We didn't have to take out any loans or any money in order to do it. Because of your generosity, we were able to do that project completely debt-free, which is super exciting and just amazing and incredible. So we're so glad and so thankful for your generosity this year. We also we hired a new children's pastor this year. Her name is Sherry, and she does a great job with the kids. She's building on a foundation that was laid by our previous children's pastor, Joel, and there's a lot of momentum and excitement in our children's ministry, a lot of growth in children's ministry. If you were here for Christmas weekend, Sherry did a children's message, and you saw what a ball of energy she is. And if you are excited about children's ministry, want to get involved in her ministry, talk to Sherry. Sherry, wave your hands in the air. Wave them all around like you just don't care. There you go. That's Sherry. Talk to her after the service if you want to get involved in children's ministry. We'll talk to you a little bit about more of that in just a minute. But here's the thing I'm most excited about. The thing I'm most excited about that God did in 2018 is the fact that we had 48 baptisms in 2018. Oh, wait. I messed that up because we're still in 2018, right? We had a baptism at 9 o'clock this morning. So that's 49 baptisms in 2018 and 76 decisions. So it's incredible. And some of you are part of that number. Some of you are part of that 49 who got baptized in 2018. So it's really exciting and really cool the way that God has been working and moving and changing lives here at GFCC and through the ministry of our church. And I'm so excited to be the pastor here. I'm so excited to be working with you because, again, it's not about Sean. It's not about Sean's ministry. It's not about Sean's church. It's our church. And it's our ministry. And we are partnering together to see lives changed for the glory of God. That's what we're doing. And I'm really, really geeked up about everything that God has been doing. I'm really geeked up and excited about what's been going on. So we've seen all these great things happening in 2018, and I believe that our best days are ahead of us still. That it's been incredible what's going on. In the last 5 years, our worship attendance has almost tripled now. In 2013, we were averaging about 155, 160 on a Sunday morning, and now we're averaging almost 400 on a weekend. So it's really, really amazing what God has been doing here at GFCC. So with all that being said, 2018 has been a great year, but the way my watch says, it's only got 2 days left, today and tomorrow, and that's it. And then the calendar turns, and we are in another year. And so that new year starts on Tuesday, 2019. And what I want to do for the balance of our time is talk about our theme for 2019. And our theme for 2019 is stepping out and stepping up. It's stepping out and stepping up. And I want to talk about what those 4 words mean this morning. To step out and step up. The first thing we're going to talk about is stepping out. And what I mean by that is stepping out in faith. Because we can't do this without faith in God. We cannot do this without God. We can't. If we try to do it without God and without His blessing, then we are going to fail. It's all about Jesus. It's all about God and what God is able to do. And so in 2019, we are going to step out in faith. We're going to do that trust fall right into God's arms. And we know that He will catch us. So we're going to step out in faith in 2019. And here's why. In Hebrews 11:6 it says this, without faith it is impossible to please God, because anyone who comes to Him must believe that He exists and that He rewards those who earnestly seek Him. So we're going to step out in faith because that is how we please God, is when we put our faith and our trust in Him. So we're going to put all of our faith and all of our trust in God in 2019. Not to say that we haven't been doing that before, but we're going to do it even more. We're going to take that trust fall right in His arms in 2019. 2 Corinthians 5:7 says, we live by faith, not by sight. And it's not about what we can see. It's about what the vision that God has for our future. It's about what God can see, and he can see a lot. Remember what it said in Ephesians 3? He can do immeasurably more than all we can ask or imagine. And I can ask for a lot. Ask my staff. They'll tell you. Sean asks a lot. But I can ask for a lot, and I can dream a lot, and I can imagine a lot. That God has great things in store for us if we will step out in faith. So we're going to step out in faith. And how many of you do Twitter? Anybody does Twitter? I do Twitter a little bit. And I was watching my Twitter feed go the other day, and this question came up on Twitter, and I love this question. I want to share it with you. What is on your schedule in 2019 that only God can accomplish? What is on your schedule in 2019 that only God can accomplish? I love this question because it raises the issue of, in our own strength and in our own power, we can only do so much. But in God's strength and in God's power and in God's provision, we can do so much more. And so what is on our schedule? What is on our agenda? What is in our plans in 2019 that only God can accomplish? That if God doesn't show up, if God doesn't do it, it ain't going to happen. That's what I want to dream about. That's what I can imagine, that God is going to do incredible things in 2019. Is it 75 baptisms? Is it 100 baptisms? Is it 500 people in worship? Is it, I don't know. Whatever God has in mind, we're going to step out in faith and trust him to do what he is going to do. And he is going to do incredible things. Here's the thing. We set 2 records this year. We set a record at Easter for our biggest weekend ever. We had 715 people in worship on Easter weekend. But you know what? We just had to go ahead and, shatter that, because last weekend, Christmas weekend, we had 891 people come to church in 6 services. So 891 people came to church. We shattered that record. Unbelievable almost. If I wasn't here, I wouldn't have believed it. But yet, I was here. And yet, it did happen. And I was exhausted. Brandon was exhausted. We were exhausted after 6 services, but it was great. And I've just been told that we had 435 people here this weekend, which means we hit 400 for the year. So it's incredible to see what God is doing. But here's the thing. We got to keep going. We got to keep going. Because I'll tell you what's not on the schedule for 2019, coasting. Coasting is not on the schedule for 2019. We're not going to rest on our laurels. We're not going to sit back and take it easy, go, you know what? We've grown enough, and we've reached enough people, we've baptized enough people, and everything is going to, we're just going to coast. No. We're not going to coast in 2019. It's pedal to the metal, keep going full steam ahead. We're going to rip the brake pedal out. We're just going to keep going. Some of you drive that way. I've seen you on the interstate. We are going to rip the brake pedal out, and we are going to go full steam ahead, pedal to the metal, 2019. We're going to step out in faith. Because our God is a big God, and our God is capable of doing incredible things. And we're going to see him do incredible things, even greater things than he did in 2018. So first part of our theme is stepping out in faith. The second part of our theme is stepping up, and that means stepping up in our stewardship. In Matthew 25, Jesus told a parable of 3 servants who were each given bags of gold. It's called the parable of the talents. One was given 5 bags of gold, another was given 2 bags of gold, and another was given 1 bag of gold. And the guy with the 5 bags of gold went out and he invested his bags of gold, and he invested his gold, and he doubled his return. He had 10 bags of gold when he was done. The second guy went out with his 2 bags of gold. He invested it, had got 2 more bags of gold. He had 4 bags of gold. The last guy went and he took his bag of gold and he buried it in the ground. He was afraid to invest his blessings. He was afraid to invest his time, talent, and treasure. He didn't want, Jesus called him a lazy, wicked servant. And there's no room for laziness, no room for wickedness. Here at GFCC, we're going to be like the first 2 guys, and we're going to invest and be good stewards of what God has given to us in order to make a good return on everything he's blessed us with. All right, so when it comes to stepping out and stepping up, I have some practical suggestions I'd like to share with you about how you can step out and step up in 2019. First of all, when it comes to stepping out, if you are new around here, if you've only been coming for a little while, maybe today's your first day, I want to encourage you to keep exploring faith with us at GFCC. So explore faith with us. If you've never been to church before, maybe this is your first time ever sitting foot in a church, and like you were like, man, I hope the ceiling doesn't crash in on me when I walk in the door. It ain't going to happen. This building's been standing here for 62 years, almost 63 years. Lots of people come through. I come through the door, okay, and it doesn't crash in on me. And believe me, there are days that it should. But never mind. I won't talk anymore about that. But when it comes to coming, we want you to come and explore faith with us. We want you to keep asking questions and learning about who Jesus is and what Jesus did for you, because Jesus died for you, and he loves you, and he wants to have a relationship with you. He wants to spend forever with you. And I believe that GFCC is a great place for you to come and learn more about that. So keep exploring faith in 2019. Or if you've already got faith in Jesus, if you're a believer but you've never been baptized, we encourage you to get baptized in 2019. When we talk about baptism here at GFCC, we talk about immersion. And the reason that we baptize by immersion is the ancient Greek word for baptize is baptizo. And baptizo is a word that literally means to immerse, to dip, or to plunge. It's a decision that you got to make for yourself. It's a decision that you have to say, you know what, I believe, and therefore I need to get baptized. In Romans chapter 3, verses 5 through 6, Paul wrote this. He says, don't you know that all of us who were baptized into Christ Jesus were baptized into his death? We were therefore buried with him through baptism into death, in order that just as Christ was raised from the dead through the glory of the Father, we too may live a new life. For if we have been united with him in a death like his, we will certainly also be united with him in a resurrection like his. And so we are spiritually united with Christ when we are buried with him in baptism. So if you've never been baptized by immersion, we encourage you to ask questions and sit down with me and have a conversation about that decision that we believe that you need to make. And so I want to encourage you to make that decision in 2019. And lastly, if you're a baptized believer already, we want you to trust God in 2019, to grow in faith and to grow in trust in our God, because our God is able, our God is capable, our God is willing, our God is good, our God is great, and we want you to grow in faith in 2019. Keep growing in your faith, keep stepping out, take that trust fall, and put your life in his hands in 2019. Now, that's stepping out. We're going to step out in faith in 2019, but we're also going to step up when it comes to stewardship. And when we talk about stewardship here at GFCC, we talk about three things. We talk about time, talent, and treasure. And so I want to talk to you for just a couple minutes about how you can invest your life in the lives of others by investing your time, talent, and treasure. First of all, you need to invest your time. And that means being involved in a connection group. That means volunteering in a ministry like our children's ministry or our middle school ministry. We have a middle school group that meets during each service. And if you're interested in helping middle schoolers follow Jesus, come talk to me after the service and we'll set you up and show you what you need to do to help out with that middle school ministry. Or if you want to help out with our junior, senior high ministry, we have a junior, senior high youth group called United for Christ. It's called UFC. And they meet on Sunday afternoons at 3 o'clock. And if you want to invest your life in the lives of teenagers, I'm sure you can pass some kind of a psychological evaluation for wanting to invest your life in teenagers, but I get it, you know. But if that's heavy on your heart and you're like, man, I want to help teenagers follow Jesus, come talk to me after this service. If you want to host or facilitate a connection group and volunteer that way, talk to Brandon after this service. You want to volunteer in children's ministry, talk to Sherry after this service. But invest your time in volunteering here at GFCC to help people follow Jesus. Secondly, we need to invest our talent in the lives of others. The talents that God has given you, whether it's leadership or teaching, whatever kind of talent you may have, we want you to use that talent for helping people follow Jesus. And invest your talent in something that goes beyond yourself. If you have a heart for reaching people, like sharing the gospel with people and telling people about Jesus, invest your talent in our outreach ministry. I mean, our outreach ministry is incredible. And it just takes a little bit of time. Go over to Central Park in the summer where we have a booth set up and reach people that way. We had so many people help out with our homeless dinner, our outreach dinner that we had last week. We had probably 50 to 75 volunteers show up and feed 175 to 200 people and show them the love of God at Christmas. So invest your talent, whatever talent you have. If it's cooking, baking, making food, we have a funeral dinner ministry, and you can sign up for that today at the Connection Center if you want to help out with our funeral dinner ministry. If you have a talent for that kind of thing, use your talents, invest them in the lives of others. And finally, the last part of this is to invest your treasure in the lives of others and seeing lives changed. God is doing incredible things in the lives of people here at GFCC. People who, 6 months ago or a year ago or 5 years ago would have said, if you told them that they'd be sitting here on a Sunday morning or on a Saturday night, and you'd be like, you know what, in 5 years, you're going to be involved in a church. You're going to go to a Bible study, and you're going to love it. And they look at you like you had a third eye growing out of your head. But I'm telling you right now, when you invest your treasure in the lives of others and seeing their lives change, God works. And God changes lives. And some of you are an example of that. Some of you are a prime example of how God has changed your life in the last year, the last 2 years, the last 5 years, the last 10 years. And it's because someone invested their treasure and they were generous here at GFCC. So we encourage you to do the same. In 2019, we are going to step out in faith, and we are going to step up our stewardship to make an eternal difference in the lives of people, to make an eternal difference for Jesus. We are going to work together, and we are going to partner with God, and we are going to step out in faith. We're going to step up our stewardship to see lives changed for the glory of God.